Hey everybody, this is Dave and
Dave,
and together we are
Twin Linked.
And this show is coverage of the road to the BAO.
The road to the BAO. So, as you guys might remember, we had this thought a couple months ago that we were going to go play in the BAO. We said, hey, let's get together, let's practice, we'll build some lists, we're going to make an effort, and we're going to show up at the BAO. So part of that was we wanted to go play at the BAO Primer Tournament, which took place at Great Escape Games in Sacramento, California. Beautiful Sacramento.
It was a great escape getting out. We got to go a couple hours away and check out a new shop. Never been there before.
Yeah, and man, talk about some nice people. We met some great folks up there. Had a fantastic time. It was really a nice experience. Wouldn't you say, Dave?
Good times.
Good times. Good times. So before we get into it, we're going to talk about our games a little bit and all that kind of good stuff. Tell you about some of the meta we saw. Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and just talk about the top four just real quick. Sound good, Dave?
Yeah, and then I'll talk about what we saw down at the bottom because that's where I was playing.
All right, so we had a total of 46 players at this tournament. So it was a good-sized tournament. It's just an RTT. It's just a one-day grind, man. It's supposed to start at 10:30. I think we kicked off at about 11.
Yeah, my feet still hurt.
Dude, that was a long day. Let me tell you what.
I was right.
Yeah, we had to ride all the way back to Fresno from Sacramento.
Being that this is a special, we're gonna go over the top 18 finishers.
Well,
coming in at number 18.
Well,
Dave.
we started number 4. We'll go from there. Coming in at number 4 was John Bonadelli. John Bonadelli, and he's playing the Salamanders. I don't know if you got a chance to see his army, Dave, but it was just an absolutely beautiful army. It was all painted that green, and hopefully Troy will have a picture back up here for us so you guys can see it. Beautiful army, and one thing you might notice, there's a couple flyers floating around in there, a couple ravens, storm ravens.
Did you get to see that army in action?
I did not get to see that particular army in action, but I did walk by and take a picture of it when it's on his display board. Just beautiful looking army.
I was talking to Chris about whether or not Chris is a Garage Hammer player.
Right, one of our.
Whether or not Salamanders might be a good pick because of all that flamer juice.
Well, plus the new chapter tactics are just starting to get released on the interwebs, right? And their codex is going to drop soon. What?
We'll get to that.
Stay on target. Again, stay on target. All right, coming in. And by the way, these top 4, they all tied for first place. They all tied for first place. It's ridiculous. Coming in also in first place was our good buddy Paul McKelvey. Paul McKelvey with the Best Coast pairing app, playing his Tau Empire, striving to be the number 1 Tau player. I think he'd stepped down for a second, but man, this is a first place win. Got some good points out there. Well done.
I'm going to start calling him PM because when he comes to the table, it's lights out.
It's lights out for them.
Lights out PM.
Paul McKelvey's Tau Empire. One of the only lists that wasn't basically a flyer build list. I think the other 3 were. Coming in I guess once again, tied for first place, Phil Tracy with the Bay Area Dogs of War, playing as Adeptus Astartes. And this was actually my first game was against Phil. So I can give all the painful details when we get to there. But once again...
What did you score in that game?
Yeah, I got a 1. I can't remember what I got a 1 for. Oh, yeah, I remember.
For showing up, Dave. We had 1 for showing up. I got a ribbon.
It was close. Oh, yeah, I got a 1 on that one. So we'll talk about the Phil Tracy game. Once again, primary flyer list.
Phil, my wrath, Tracy.
Nice. But coming in first place, and we were talking about this in our last episode, Dave.
Coming in fourth first place.
Fourth first place was Trevor Van Cleve. Trevor Van Cleve playing the IG, Astra Militarum, with Team Mercy Killers up there, based out of Sacramento. 19, 19, and 18 on his final scores. And once again, we should have a picture of his army back there behind us. He played IG. He had some flyers. He had, what are those flamer tanks that IG have, Dave?
Those would be Hellhounds.
He had some Hellhounds, Veterans of Plasma. He had a pretty broad list, but those flyers are out there doing work. His veterans are blowing stuff up, and he was holding it down. Those flamers, right, against flyers and everything, fantastic.
Do we still have Torrent?
I don't know. Didn't you look in your new codex yet?
I was missing pages.
He's missing pages. That's true.
I'll know on Friday. And then I'm going to do a special all about IG. Me and my IG.
Me and my IG. So, hey, those were our top 4 players who all tied for first place. John Bonadelli, Paul McKelvey, Phil Tracy, Trevor Van Cleve. So, first of all, congratulations to all those guys. It was a powerful zone. I don't know if I was fully prepared for a lot of the armies we saw up there, Dave. There was some really challenging armies.
I was definitely not. I got my teeth knocked out.
I think we both did once or twice. Let's go ahead and talk about our first game. Dave, why don't you talk about a little bit about your army first, and then we'll talk about your first game.
So, I just bring this hodgepodge of orcs. Threw it together. My stuff that was almost painted. So I had a battle wagon full of looters and a big mech with a custom force field. I had a couple of units of commandos because I thought that was cool. I had 6 units of boys. I had a brigade detachment.
Right. Okay. You went for the brigade.
I showed up with 12 command points. Guess what? It's kind of hard to use 12 command points in 4 rounds. You get the game over with. I mean, I had a lot of command points, but I couldn't use them. I wound up chucking them.
So let me ask you this, Dave.
I was using them to get drinks.
As long as we're here at this point, orcs, they win for the most part by rolling over somebody in mass, right? A lot of the command points we see are used for those command rerolls and stuff like that. But for orcs, when you have 20 boys attacking, it's hard to say, oh, I want to reroll that one.
I'm going to reroll that one miss.
Right? Or something like that. So, it's kind of a challenge on where to use those strategy points. Did you have a chance at all to use them for...
Oh, I used quite a bit. One, it's just like, it's high value. So I know I used one to re-roll the number of shots I got on my Ludas.
Oh, there you go.
You roll a 1 or a 2 shooting Ludas, I'm going to get 3 hits. I did a intervention once.
Oh, good. Okay.
It was sneaky. I did that to Chris, the guy I played last. And then what else did I use them on? I think I did it to re-roll wounds on a cannon shot.
Okay.
They're D6.
That makes sense.
Still get to use them, so that was good.
Okay.
I'm glad I had them.
How many cannons did you bring?
I brought 6 cannons.
Okay, so...
You should remember, didn't you shoot them all? And
well...
We played each other round 2.
Yeah, that's right. Drive 150 miles to play the guy you played in the garage. But that's what happens when you both lose round 1 and you lose by the exact same number of points.
It's like kissing your cousin. No, that's actually
not like fun. Kissing your cousin. That I want to point out. That's
I'm
like
kissing your cousin.
Okay, that's better. It's a little awkward.
What's his name?
Even more awkward. All right, so you had your army. Mm-hmm. What were your thought processes when you built it? Yeah, were you was it all across the table? Were there any tricks that you had in your head that you were going to try to use when you showed up?
So what I wanted to do was get on you very quickly. So I had one battle wagon, but that was just to protect the looters.
Uh-huh.
Then I had Boss Snickrot, who can hide, come in from the side. 2 units of commandos that could come in from the side.
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 individual death copters that could come in from the side, and then I had a weird boy that could that had the jump.
Okay, so you're maybe jumping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to get somewhere as fast as I can. And so in my first game, are we ready to talk about the game?
Yeah, go ahead.
In my first game, a real nice guy was named Charlie.
Charlie Jones, I think.
Was named Charlie Puckett. Did that?
Out of
from Willy Wonka. Anyway, he didn't bring a lot of models. Well, he did bring a lot of models. He brought, what were those, pox walkers.
Right.
That apparently you could stretch 30 of them all the way across the board.
Yeah, and they get tougher the more you got, right? You got over 20 in a unit.
Yeah, I needed -1 to hit them. Sweet.
Yes. Are you sure?
Yes.
I think maybe...
Either that or just tricked me.
Oh, you know what? It wasn't poxwalkers. You were facing...
Plague bears.
Plague bears, that's right. Full demon army. Plague bears, when they're over 20, get a -1 to hit.
Whatever. They were disgustingly resilient.
Nice. And they have the invul save.
Yes.
And they have the disgustingly resilient. Mm-hmm. So they're basically 5-ups, 5-ups, and a -1 to hit because there's over 20. So he had a table full of these guys.
And they come back at the end of the turn or whenever. And if he had another unit that he would kill something in hand-to-hand, you get to replace that number of models.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of nice.
So, yeah, he had them stretched all the way across the board to shield all 6 of his flying demon princes.
6 flying demon princes. All right.
That was just nasty.
So, But against your horde, what did you do? Did he absorb the rush of the orcs? How did that work?
He had one model. He had 2 chariots, whatever those are.
Oh, okay.
The only shooting he had was on one of those, 6 inches. So I got smart. He rolled to go first, and he said, "You can go first." I'm like, that threw up a flag. What is this guy doing? Why is he letting me go first? I didn't move forward. I just stayed.
Right.
Come to me, Jabu.
Come to me, Jabu.
So I shot as much as I could between my looters, but the thing was, I could only shoot those 2 chariots,
Right.
or the poxwalker, or the plague bearers.
Plague bears, that's correct.
I could not shoot at the demon princess.
No.
So I'm like, hey, I'll take it.
Now, did you try to bring your commandos in, maybe behind where you could get to those demon princes or something?
Yes, I did. I brought the commandos in and the death copters on one flank to anchor that unit of plague bearers.
Okay.
So because he wanted to come forward, so he was kind of wheeling forward, and my guys were holding up all right. He just ran over there with 2 of his flying demon princes and thumped them. One of them was Bellicor.
Oh yeah, Bellicor, super.
So
awesome.
yeah, they went over there, thumped them real quick.
I just want to point out, I have Bellicor en route right now.
Yeah. So I lost 18 to 1.
Tough.
But it was fun.
What was the one you got? You remember?
I got first blood.
Oh, first blood. There you go.
I shot that chariot.
The chariot and blew it off with the cannons, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cannons and looters. That's what it took. It had a lot of wounds.
Yeah.
It had a lot of attacks. It was fun to see different things. It was really cool because you had these 6 flying demon princes.
Hey.
Magic.
Let's take a pause for the cause while we repair our screenery. And welcome back.
Almost welcome back. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
All right. Should I go ahead and talk about my stuff real quick, round 1?
I got to talk about my second game.
Oh, you're going to do all 3?
I lost today. No, let's hear about your first game.
Yeah,
let's
flip.
I like that.
There we go. We'll do a little back and forth action. So my army I brought was Chaos Space Marines, and so I had a battalion of each. I had a battalion of Chaos Space Marines Nurgle, and I had a battalion of Nurgle Demons. So I had some firepower, I had some little squibblies running around out there. The core of my army, though, is I had 2 lace cannon predators, right? So I got plenty of lace cannon shots. I had a Hellbrute armed with a twin-linked lace cannon and a missile launcher. I had a Soul Grinder with the Harvester cannon, Flame Bombardment. So that's like my fire-based Charlie, right? I'm like dropping it out, dropping stuff from a distance. This is my plan anyway. I had 2 Demon Princes of Nurgle. I had 2 Heralds of Nurgle. And then I had 2 10-man squads of Poxwalkers, 1 10-man squad of Cultists, and 3 3-man groups of Nurglings.
And, because I hate these new models very much.
Oh, yeah.
Your drones.
2 Blight drones. Thank you, Dave. That's correct.
I hate those things.
So, I feel like I had a pretty good balanced army going into it, Dave. I had a nice fire base. I had Nurglings to go out and block Alpha Strikers coming in, because they can be anywhere on the table when deploying 9 inches away from the enemy's deployment zone. So like if someone even puts scouts out, you can just go right beside the scouts, and if you get a chance, you can charge them round 1. Nothing says you can't. So I had this like idea that I had these layers of depth. So like even like horde armies had to roll through these lines of defense the whole time my stuff in the backfield just taking shots. And then by having a Herald, the Herald gives a +1 strength to all my Nurgle stuff. So his idea is that he deploys out kind of trailing behind my Demon Prince and a Blight drone, because they're both demons and Nurgle, so he gives them a +1 strength. And the Blight drones, Plague Spitters, which are like flamers, right? They're based upon the Blight drone's strength. They don't have a standard weapon template, right? It's based on strength, which is normally 6.
I didn't even know that.
Right? So I put the Herald next to it, and it makes a strength 7 on its attacks for those. And then it also, the Soul Grinder is also a Nurgle demon, so its strength goes up by 1, giving it strength 9 base. So it sounded to me like I had a pretty good combo plate. I liked what I had put together. I had layers, like I say, I had stuff that could run out and grab
parfait
in objectives, and it had lots of good shooting. And the Demon Princes gave everybody reroll 1s, and a lot of the Nurgle stuff gets re-roll on wounds. Like, so, hey, all right, we got a chance. So that's what I thought. Round 1, I faced one of the eventual winners, Phil the Vicious Tracy, out of the Bay Area Dogs of War gaming group, and he brought Bill, I'm sorry, I just laughed in my head. A beautifully painted, a flyer list. Each one was 3 colors technically, but he had 3 Storm Ravens. He had Bobby G, the Ghoulie Man himself. He had 2 Ironclad Dreadnoughts and a Chaplain stuck in there somewhere too. And that's it, man. But those Storm Ravens were loaded. I mean, they had laser cannons, they had assault cannons, they had Melta, they had the Hurricane bolters, they had the Storm Strike missiles. And what he did is when he started, he put like Bobby G right in the middle of the table and put those guys on either side. So technically they're zooming, right? So if I got first turn, he has the -1 to hit and all that kind of good stuff. But he won first turn, and he cheated because he didn't let me roll for seize the initiative. I know that's not true, Phil. I totally forgot. And Phil actually was a great opponent. I just want to say he would have totally reminded me if he'd forgot to. But we got all set up.
He's still bitter.
Just a wee bit.
So how does it explain to me how Bobby Boucher,
right,
can sit in the middle of the board and it's not a problem?
Well, he puts them way far back, and then what that does is it puts the Storm Ravens, he sets a little bit forward. So technically, for where I was at, they were closest, so I can't shoot directly at them. And then what he does is he flies all 3 Storm Ravens into the middle around Bobby G, and that gives them re-rolls on everything. Re-rolls to hits, all hits, not just ones, re-rolls, and re-rolls to wound on everything. So you're looking at Storm Ravens that have a ton of shots. They're already hitting on 3s. Now they're re-rolling everything. And most of the time, he almost never missed, and he almost never failed to wound. Right? So round 1, he comes out there and just blows my crap away. I lost a Predator right off the bat. I lost the Soul Grinder right off the bat. So 2 of my big shooters are gone round 1. And I just could not put the wounds back on him with what I had left. And so basically, right from the get-go, I was on the back foot.
Did you do anything to him?
I tried to use line of sight. I tried to move my Demon Princes forward in order to get in a position where I could maybe get an assault in, and eventually I did. I did get to assault one of his flyers, and through some shooting and my Demon Princes, I was able to take one of the flyers out.
Good job.
And that actually got me Big Game Hunter, and that was the only point I scored in that game. But other than that,
good job.
I basically called it in turn 4. So there were special rules in place we should talk about real quick. So ITC came out with line of sight blocking rules. So the bottom level of a ruin in the ITC is completely line of sight blocking.
Can't see.
Okay, so it came out right away. Does that mean if you're inside the ruin, can you not be shot at by something outside of it, or did you have to be all the way across? Right. So initially it was, for our table, we said if you're in the ruin, it's line of sight blocking. That's it, bottom level.
I like that. I agree.
Other tables went different ways. Eventually, I think it worked out where they said you had to be on the far side of the ruin for it to be technically line of sight blocking. Because if you were in the ruin with infantry, technically you couldn't even shoot out because you'd have line of sight blocking.
Well, I changed my mind. I don't like that.
Right? And so I tried to we had this big building in the middle, and it was line of sight blocking. But the flyers, right? Everything's elevated like this microphone, right? And the bottom level of the second and third level of his ruins are all blown out. So he could still look down on everything in my army. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
Yeah, the high ground like Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, don't do it.
Can't lose.
I hold the high ground. Perhaps one of the dumbest fighting segments of any movie. However, yeah, he held the high ground and just smashed me. Just shot me almost off the table. It was tough. But you know what? Once again, he's a great opponent. We actually high-fived at one time when I used a command re-roll to make a save.
And how'd you do?
On the game?
Did you make your save?
Oh, I did. That's what I mean. We high-fived. It was that kind of fun. He was
slap hands.
He was a great opponent.
So you got to slap hands with Bobby Boucher. Slap hands. slap hands.
So yeah, my list was actually a fairly well-balanced list, but it was not prepared for that hardcore flyer meta. Plus, Dave, I never played against it, right? When I look back on it, there's things I might have been able to do. I could have spread out, put like a Demon Prince in each corner with, a Herald and the Blight Drone and stuff like that. I could have rushed everything forward to get in his face a little bit and blocked like his lines for flying. The problem with the Storm Ravens is they can hover as well as fly, so it's really tough to get those things.
Well, we've known about this list for a while. It's been out there. As soon as 8th edition came out, that list has been out there. You can read about it. It's like Playboy. It's like Playboy. You could read about it and think, okay, here's what I do. You know, you're reading Playboy, like, that's what I do, man. What I would do. Then when you get there, and it's right there in your face, you just can't handle it.
Well, Phil and I talked about it.
I read about it, but this isn't what I expected.
We talked about it, and this is one of the things you see on the interwebs a lot, too. Turn 1 making a huge difference in games. If I'd had turn 1, I'm pretty sure I had enough firepower. I could have taken one of those things out.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
And if a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump its ass hopping.
But really, I think I would have shot 8, 9, 10 las cannons at him, a missile launcher, a harvester cannon, a phlegm bombardment. A lot of those things all do multiple damage. I had rerolls in my ones. I had a good chance, I think, of taking one of them out if I had first round. By the end of the first round, over half my firepower was already gone. So yeah, it was a tough game. It was a good learning experience though, and a great opponent. I had a good time.
So what does that storm? This is what I was thinking about when I heard how bad it was. What's the Storm Raven cost with all those?
It's very expensive. I think he said something like $320.
And he's got 3 of them.
Yeah, and Bobby G, who's also in the 300s.
So you're looking 12, 13, 1400 just right there.
Yeah, but that's all he needed really. Heck, he hardly even got you only got one dreadnought out of the whole thing. It was destructive. All right, Dave, let's go ahead and go on to the game 2. Oh, by the way, hopefully Troy's putting up some pictures of my game with
and fix their screen.
Phil Tracy. He was a great guy. And game number 2, we both scored 1, right? So what happened?
They put us up against each other.
Oh my goodness! Ridiculous.
I did it on purpose because I wanted to play Dave, and I knew he was going to score 1 or less.
Well, let's point out that the BAO was a challenge tournament for us, Dave, because you beat me technically points-wise at the BAO last year. So we were like, this year, it's on again. And so since we're not going to get to play, we're going to be shoutcasting at the BAO.
This was our bragging rights game, and not only did you place higher in the tournament, but you beat me head-to-head.
That's right.
So,
thank you, Dave. You're a gentleman. But it was a fun game. It was a lot of fun. We set up
for you.
We set up on opposite corners. It was Vanguard Strike. I basically did the same thing. I had my fire base. I had layers of defense going out, and wanted to talk about your setup, Dave. What was your plan to go in and get those guys?
I wanted to make sure I could reach my models when I was sitting, because at that point I was kind of tired.
That's true. Dave only did sleep like 4 hours the night before, and we left at what
2.5. We left at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
No, what I was thinking, and I had played against that list before, so I knew what was coming. I was going to jump over some guys, and I never really had an opportunity.
Right.
And it was an objective game, so I used the commandos to try and score points.
Right.
I just want to point out, I actually did better against that list than I had done previously, because I was able to take out a couple of things.
Yeah.
So it was different having the cannons and the looters allowed me to take out something, because otherwise I'm down to 36-inch range. So it was very different having 48-inch shooting looters. But my intent was to jump stuff over, because you were all turtled up in the back. And
sure, yeah.
Then you come over with those plague drones and smack me around. It was pretty bad.
Drones. Yeah, they did good, right? You know, against like a 10-man unit of orcs, you go in there with those double flamers and follow it up with a charge. It usually eats it up pretty good.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. He did get into my back line at the end. He did start to assault my vehicles and stuff like that. We talked about some of the things, like how, man, some of the differences in this game. So, like, there was a ruin right in the middle of my fire base, and Dave was flowing up, and he flowed into that ruin, and he wiped out a unit there. I can't even remember what it was off the top of my head, but so he was there,
chumps,
and he forgot basically to consolidate, right? Because he could have consolidated and grabbed all of my vehicles. They could have backed out, but then they couldn't shoot. So then the next round, I was able to dump a ton of firepower down onto Dave's guys and took out a good chunk of that 30-man horde.
As orcs do, we were celebrating our victory.
But
slap hands. We didn't want to consolidate.
There's so many things to learn in this new game. You know, you got to remember those consolidation moves and all that kind of good stuff.
I've always been a slow learner when it comes to this game, but Yeah, I got to do that a couple times, and then I'll remember. It's like, got to rub my nose in it.
Yeah, it was still a fun game. I mean, the
enjoyed
score wasn't that far out. I think final score was like 5-11, somewhere around. No, something like that.
What'd you get? I got 5.
I got 13, so 5-13. But even that score doesn't reflect the game. It was actually fairly close when he got in there at the very end. I was starting to sweat a little bit.
It's that same thing in previous editions. Like I said, with the command points, do I need 12? It's kind of hard to use them in a game that's that short. It's also the wrong tactic playing mob orcs to get across the table in a short game like that. Talking to some of the players that have been playing orcs, that's not what they're doing. They're doing some other stuff that's moving them really quickly. So I'm going to pay attention.
But that was another nice thing about the tournament. You know, we go outside and we talk to a bunch of people, and there's some great ideas floating around about different armies and how to play like orcs and stuff like that. You feel like you got some good ideas just from other folks while you're there?
Oh, yeah. There were a couple of gentlemen. I hope I'm not ruining it for anybody. They were talking about this idea to play a couple of Morkanauts surrounded by Storm Boys moving forward. You don't bring all your flyers, they're just going to jump up and smack you.
Nice.
I'm like, pure genius. Who are these people?
Who are these people?
Who are these people?
Yeah,
it's exciting.
The 40K community is huge, and there's people out there with these fantastic and fun lists. You know, it's worth trying. Get out there and get to a tournament. All right, let's talk about our final game of the day. Dave, what did you play against?
Well, I just got to say, it's a sad world when I go to a tournament and the only army I could beat is Eldar.
One tier Eldar emoji.
Yeah. But it was kind of old-fashioned. The guy I played was a lot of fun. What was his name? I believe it was Chris. He more of a, not he's playing the same thing he's playing before. Before Eldar were cool, he was playing Eldar.
Right.
So he lived through that, and he's going to live through this change. And it was just a lot of standard Eldar stuff, a couple Wave Serpents, a Night Spinner, and some Walkers. And
I did get over there and take a look at the field. He had a beautiful army. I mean...
Yeah, they were pretty cool. That one, he had a flyer that had like this green metallic flake paint. I'm like, that's like lowrider paint. I could see that thing in Lowrider magazine. It looked old. It was cool.
It did. It looked really cool. And he had the one warlord. His warlord, I think, had like the Harlequin paint set up on it.
Looked like it was going to the Day of the Dead parade.
Yeah, and it was Harlequin paint before they came out with the Harlequin models. I mean, his army did look really good. It was old school, but it looked nice.
And that was a fun game. It was almost like a narrative game. Everything just worked out really well. There was a big line of sight blocker that you couldn't get into or on top of, except when he deployed snipers up there.
Oh, dirty dog!
And he had it was just awesome. And then the one big line of sight blocker, I had brought my def copters in. I had to walk around 3 tables and go set up my def copters, and I come back to my side. I do all my thing, and then I forgot to shoot or assault with them.
Oh,
but they survived a round of shooting from Night Spinner.
Oh, there you go.
And a Wave Serpent. I'm like, how do they do that? 2 def copters one got taken out, one had 1 wound left. So I actually won that game. I took his flyer out first round with those
smart, yeah.
And got to put some hurt on the walkers because those still put out a ton of firepower.
They do.
Eldar's still pretty tough in my world.
You know, I think they're probably going through a system shock right now. Eldar players are going through a system shock. You know, one of the hardest thing is, and we've said it a ton of times, you have to unlearn what you have learned, right? And so for some of those Eldar folks, like just learn how to build a new list, or using Ynnari tactics or something like that, or using Harlequins in your list, they'll come around, but it might take a little bit.
Yeah, it's like we used to say in 7th edition. I would say it all the time about orcs. They'd say, hey, why don't you try this or why don't you try that? I'm like, you cannot take that unit. It is too inefficient cost-wise. You cannot take XYZ units, and that's the way it was in 7th edition. But you may recall us talking about Eldar. Take anything, you're gonna be fine.
Of course, yeah.
Doesn't matter. You're gonna be fine. They're all underpriced and can do something.
Well, in 8th edition, there's hardly a bad unit out there for anybody, really. You just got to learn how to use them.
But now everything's closer.
It is closer.
The gap between everybody is closer, so you can't afford to not be as efficient as possible, especially when playing a stud orc player like myself. So how did you do in your 3rd game?
My 3rd game, I played a Grey Knights player, so this is only like my 2nd or 3rd time playing Grey Knights. He had a pretty traditional Grey Knights list, I think. He did have some meta stuff. He had a I think 3 walkers. I forget what they're called. Maybe Dread Knights in this in the Grey Knight book. 3 walkers with auto cannons. He had a couple of Razorbacks with laser cannons and infantry squad inside. He had a big old 10-man unit of Terminators. I got a picture of it, and so we all deploy out. Everything's happy, right? And he goes first. He wins the roll to go first. And I set up my fire base just like I'm supposed to. And Dave, I got a little too excited, and I left I left a 10-inch gap on the rear, right? So my fire base is set up. No one should be able to get behind me. Terminators, deep strike, all in one thin line all across the back end of my table, right behind my fire base. Direct line of shots to my Demon Princes. Direct line of shot to my Warlord, Dave. And I'm just sitting there going, oh my gosh. And he had a Drago, which is their chapter master. But, and I think this is the thing that saved my bacon, Drago wouldn't fit. He either had to take Drago and no Terminators, or all the Terminators but not Drago. He wouldn't quite fit in that bubble I had left behind.
Now, you guys, I just got to tell you, I don't know how many times I've told Dave not to leave 10 inches behind his back.
You were waiting so long to say that. I could see it in his face. Oh.
It's dangerous.
Now I got to refocus. All right. Anyways, so yeah.
Not gonna after that.
Totally left the back door open, and boom, someone just
literally
magically appeared, teleported in there.
Magically delicious.
And it might have almost seemed like to my opponent that it was an evil trap, right? Because
it's a trap.
He's back to his Terminators. He has no way to get him in hand-to-hand combat round 1. The rest of his army is all far away on the far side of the board. So they're hanging in the breeze, right? My Nurglings, which I have deployed in my 3rd ring, keep everything else well away. He had assassins as well, but nothing could really get in that close. And I turned all that firepower of my fire base and all the smites from my Demon Princes and my Heralds, and I wiped out all the Terminators.
That was a nasty thing in my first game. This guy showing up with all this smite.
Yeah.
6 Demon Princes with smite.
Smite spam is the real deal, dude. It can do some work. Especially against Terminators. They're 2-wound models, right? They have a 2-up armor save, a 5-up invul save. So they're hard to get rid of. But smites, you just choose right through them. It goes through it pretty quick. And I also noticed with my command points, you're talking about you were having a hard time. I had 9 command points because I had 2 battalions. And almost every game I ended up with 1 or 2 left at the end. And because with the laser cannons and everything else, I'm command re-rolling 2 or 3 times every round.
They're important because one of my opponents, he only had 5, and he was really needing them at the end of the game.
Exactly.
He couldn't keep some critical things alive that could have helped out.
Yeah, my goal was to hit without help, but then the wound rolls, like you were talking about, with the laser cannon, it does 1d6. So if you can get a 6 instead of a 1, or even a 4 instead of 1, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, he was a great opponent, but so many of those Terminators were in that backfield. It's a huge point sink back there, and I took him out first turn. So then the rest of the threats I was able to eliminate piecemeal. They're scattered around the table. His the autocannons weren't able to do enough damage. He kept shooting my Soul Grinder, and one of my Heralds has a healing spell. It's called Fleshy Abundance that works on Nurgle demons, and it's a
no comment.
Right? And he kept healing him, so they knock him down a few points. He'd heal him back. I mean, he was slowly over time taking pieces off, but he couldn't get rid of them.
Game. Remember,
he couldn't get rid of them, and I did pretty good against him. Eventually, I tabled him. My blight drones were chasing his infantry all the way across the table. My Demon Princes were coming out, but mostly it was just shooting overwhelming firepower from that fire base.
I don't like those drones. So, sounds like you had a great time, Dave. I had a great time.
Yeah, I met so many nice people. I want to do a big shout out to Bryce Nelson up there who ran that event. Just fantastic folks. You go out of town, it can be a little intimidating, right? You go into this room of 50 hardcore gamers, and most of them know each other, right? Because a lot of them from Sacramento in the Bay Area, and then there was us, right, and a few other people from out of town.
They looked at us.
Oh, when you're a jet, you're a jet. Oh my God.
No, we pulled up and somebody's going, "Hey, there's Dave." I'm like, how could
true.
you not feel welcome? Everybody was great.
Yes.
Great shop. it's nice to see a different shop.
Yeah.
They had the store's cool, and then they got a big warehouse where you get to play. That's just awesome.
And they had really good terrain out there. I was impressed with their terrain. Most of it was just outstanding, top of the line.
Out freaking standing.
So
got to meet new people. Can't remember all the names, but thank you all for welcoming us. And excellent hosts. It was a great time. I'm definitely going back up there.
Oh yeah, I think it's well worth the trip. It's not too far away for us. About 2.5 hours. That 1 day trip, it was a hard trip when you're getting in your late 40s. Recovering. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's a little tough. We didn't even drink or nothing. Just drove, ate, drove back,
and stunk.
Oh my god!
I stunk up Dave's wife's car. Sorry about that. Did she say anything?
No. I did deodorize everything, but it was a great event. When you get out there and you travel these tournaments, you just have so much fun. I definitely recommend it to folks. And don't be afraid to walk into small cliques, right? Don't be afraid to get out there and see some folks. And if you're at a tournament and you see somebody you don't know, please go out of your way to go out there, shake that person's hand, and bring them into your clique for a little bit. Talk to them, ask them about their stuff. Let's make people who are visiting our communities feel welcome.
Everybody was very welcoming, and that was during the downtime before the tournament starts or between games. We're gonna go grab something at lunch, but during gameplay, big guy, chair kicking big guy. I don't want to play you, buddy.
Every once in a while, you get a little nerd rage, but hey, all my guys were super polite and fun, except for this guy. But other than that, it was a good time.
I rated him lowest on sportsmanship.
But so to top it all off, Dave, the guy who won had that interesting IG army. He was combining flyers with veterans, with flamers. It was a really interesting army. But of course, he tied with those other guys. Flyers, re-rolls. Man. But some of the things we were talking about, some of the things we're seeing is an event like this really starts to change the meta. A lot of people are talking about bringing things like a huge army full of plague bringers that can't get shut off the table by those flyers, that can swarm objectives and hold them, and then the demon princes can bound out and take those flyers out. I can't wait to see what we find at the BAO. I mean, it's going to be super exciting. People from all over the world are going to be there. I hope you guys turn into Frontline's Twitch channel, watch us. Yes. We'll be giving you the latest action, keeping you informed on everything. I'm sure PD Pop and Mariana and everyone else will be out there giving you the down low.
Good times.
Should be a good time. If you can make it out there, please come by, say hi. I'd love to do a shout out. Maybe you can get your face on the stream. Have a little bit of fun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
40Kers of all ages.
Love it. Have fun. Keep rolling them dice. Stay frosty.
Thanks for watching.